Hello there. We are moving forward on our little spiritual journey together. You know, last week I talked about the responsibility one has to take to go on this journey, and that you have to be very courageous and strong, and you don't let anything stop you on the way, because so many things are going to be happening to you as you move on this road to greater conscious awareness of God. God in your life, God being you. I'm talking about God eventually finding out that God is the very presence of you. But it takes a while, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of diligence. And since I started this little journey with you all on the spiritual, I like to think about us as spiritual warriors. How do you like that? I like spiritual warriors because that's what we become. As we are moving in consciousness, we become spiritual warriors. Now, as you see, I've got my little spiritual power tool book in my hand. And the reason I want to talk to you about this tonight is because last week I talked to you about your commitment, your desires, all that, and told you it was a journey that was going to take a lot of your energy, your dedication, etc., etc. Now, I want to talk to you about what you're going to gain, what you're going to gain from this. When I was on the journey, I didn't know what I was going to gain. I was blind and just a 33-year-old girl trying to figure out what God was all about. But now, at my age now, I can tell you what I've discovered and what has worked for me and has worked for all the masters in the ages. You're not the only one that's ever gone through a purification process. We all have had to do this, even Jesus, Buddha. Everyone goes through this purification of the limited self, because the limited self can never go into God consciousness, because it takes too much baggage and it's too much dedicated to its personal sense of I, its personality, and keeping that personality fed and rejuvenated on a moment-to-moment basis all day long when we are in the third dimension, because we love our personality somewhat. But now that you're taking your personality, a look at it, it looks different. It looks a lot different. Because the personality is the part that you were born in to do this journey up to this point. But what happens is the soul must merge and take over the personality. That's what eventually happens. Your soul takes over the personality. So in order for that to happen, you have to be very conscious of the ego self that you are, and to be very, very clear about observing what your ego gets out of its behavior, its judgment, its distancing from others' souls or egos. It has to look at all those things. And as I mentioned last week, it wasn't a happy time for me, because I didn't want to see my flaws. I just thought I would naturally just move into God consciousness effortlessly. Someone, great guru, would come and bop me on the head and wake me up. It did not happen. Once I started to really get deep into wanting to understand who I truly am in God, the process that began was difficult. I don't want to tell you it's a lot of fun. But what is good about it and what is fun about it is that when you cross over these different things and give up your judgment and start using your intuitive mind on some of these things, you get clearer understanding and a clearer ability to work in the best interest of your soul and also others too. So these little things that you have to go through are worth it because it clears you out so that you are more clear. You are only 1/10 conscious. And by becoming 2/10 conscious, you see you have a lot more light, a lot more clarity of vision. And when you become 3, 4, 5, can you imagine? And by the time you become 100% in God and know that you're one with God, you know you're one with every soul on this planet. And there's a whole different energy about you, a whole different love and understanding about you. And it's well worth it. I know I struggled with giving up my personality self. It was hard, but I wouldn't take it back for all the billions and trillions of dollars in this universe, because it became very heavy for me once I started looking at it. Once I started to recognize the games I played with myself and others. Once that began, and I didn't like myself at all, and I would say, oh God, keep showing me these things, putting the light on me. I will meditate. Show me what I need to do, and I will do it. I will stand up to this limited self, and I will merge with my soul. So the whole job is to let go of the personality self, because that's where the ego lies, and move into your God self, where everything that you've ever possibly could have in any way wanted or dreamed of is there for you, because you have peace. You have peace of mind. You have peace, and you can use your personality as an expression of yourself in different ways. You walk in and out of it like it's an actress or an actor. You use your personality to help people, to motivate people, to be a parent, to love, to care for, to teach. But you don't always have to be in the teacher mode. Because I have a teacher mode right now, and this is what I'm using. I'm using my teacher mode. But then there's other aspects of me, my fun self, the one that enjoys laughing and playing and having fun and dancing and going swimming and sitting at the ocean and all the wonderful things. But I'm not stereotyped in any of it. I use it like I would jumping into a car. It's effortless. It's effortless because it has no agenda. If it does have an agenda, it is to love you. It's to support you. It's to look at how I might be able to say something to you in a talk that resonates with you. Maybe it's just one line. And so often I hear from you all saying, I listened to your whole video. I got one sentence that spoke to me louder, and the rest of it, you know what? I didn't hardly hear. But that one sentence meant everything to me. So this video is always laced with a lot of different aspects to it, so that wherever you are, you will pick up what you need. So I bless you, each and every one of you, to enjoy this video that I'm doing today and get out of it what you need to hear. And as I said, here is my book. And the reason I have my book here is because I want to talk to you about the difference between the third dimensional consciousness and the fourth. Why would you even care about giving up the third dimensional consciousness and taking on the fourth? Why would that even be of interest to you? What do you gain by that? That's what I'm going to answer right now. So stick with me, because I'm going to answer this. And you that have the Spiritual Power Tools Support for Your Soul, on page 17, you're going to see these charts, which I have up in front of you right now. And I'm going to talk to you about them. The first thing that began was I began to be able to turn off my mind, turn off that chatter that was going. And the only way I was able to do that was by observing the chatter that was going on in my head and all its different judgments and messages that was giving me, because none of it was true. It was from my limited viewpoint that I judged everything, or from something I learned from past lives and thought that this is the way to judge people, or to love people, or to keep people away from me, or bring them to me. Whatever. I had to learn to listen to my brain, my conscious chatter, chatter, chatter. And it's important that you do listen to your chatter and observe it, because it becomes your best friend after a while. And what I mean by that is the chattering that will go through, once you start clearing it out, it will come through like a bell, bing, and it will be a new thought. It will be a different thought. And when you have a new thought that you've never thought before, you pay attention to it, because you are now observing, what does that new thought have to do with you? Then you journal about it and think about it. And that supports you in moving out of the third dimension, so that you can be more clearer. You end up mastering your mind. I know that that might sound very strange to you right now, mastering this mind, because it's been so busy for so much time in so many lifetimes. You see, it's not just this lifetime. It's all the other lifetimes that you've lived. You've had this chatter going on over and over, and you've made judgments on the chatter that was going on. You measured everything and everyone in every lifetime. You made decisions, and you made what you thought was a wise decision. I certainly thought that I had made wise decisions, and yet I found out that those were just illusions. They were just the way I dealt with the world. And once I was able to see some of that, then at that point I was able to detach myself from it. And I'll tell you one thing that happened when I was listening to my mind and trying to understand how to push it away and how to get still enough to be listening. I was afraid. I was very afraid of what happened if I turned my mind off. Now, maybe none of you will have that problem, but my spiritual friend and I both had that problem, and I've heard that from others that I've been teaching for years. What happens to me if I go into the silence? How scary is it going to be? Because I'm so used to having this stuff going through. If I have 2 minutes of quiet, I'm just going to dissolve into nothing, because my thoughts keep me alive. My thoughts keep me motivated, or keep me out of trouble, or keep me moving, or giving me power to go and do something. You see, you don't realize that when you give these thoughts up, what ultimately is going to happen is that you're always going to take the right action at the right time, because you will be always in tune in the present moment to take that action. And you won't have to be worried about any action you take that it won't be in the best interest of the person you're helping or supporting, or your own spiritual soul that you are working with. The only way we can move through this process is to observe our thoughts and master them and get into the silence. That's why meditation is so important. And we, of course, have been talking about meditation for a long, long time. Also about your desires. Also about being the observer. So you've been building a platform. You have been building a platform to stand on. You know what your desires are. You know how to use your observer self. And you know how to meditate and listen and push out those things that aren't of any support to you. Because later on, you will be using your mind and your thoughts in a totally different way. Because that is when you start learning to use your intuitive mind. But you got to get this part done before this can really be of support to you as you move in your consciousness. So, first thing we have to do is start to be really aware of what's going on in our heads, and our judgments, and our measuring stick. We measure everyone against some type of, I don't know what measuring stick we have in our head, because we all have different measuring sticks. It's what I found out working with my students. I found out every one of them had a different measuring stick that they measured from. None of them had the same measuring stick. Why not? Because they had different experiences in other lifetimes. So their measuring stick was different. None of it is worth anything until we are able to observe our measuring stick and start using our measuring stick. And of course I have in here the spiritual thermometer to help you to stay above a 5, and that's another whole story in itself, which we will talk about in the future. But first you've got to get to the point where you are very clear about where you are. And journal, journal, journal. Journaling can be your best friend. Journal your thoughts, because they'll take you somewhere, to a place that maybe you didn't think you'd ever go. Because your higher self is supporting your process to move out of the third dimension. So this is the first thing that happens. Then, of course, you begin to identify your real self against your limited self. That's where you use a measuring stick. But I don't want to go there right now, because I've given you enough to do right now for this week. But we'll go on with this process, and I will support you week after week in taking these steps. And if you will, this week, dedicate yourself to observing yourself even more clearer and more precisely than you ever have before. Continue doing your journaling, being committed, and watch your mind. That's a huge, huge thing. And personally, it took me months and months and months to do it. It was hard. But you've mastered it. Whoa. Can you imagine if it only takes you a couple of months to master your mind, Now, where's it going to take you? When I was in it, let me tell you, I thought it would be forever. I'd never get out of it. But I did. And you will too. So take this first step with me in mastering your mind. And we'll go on with the rest of them. And if you would care to, look up on page 17 and go through all the things that I will be talking to you about each and every week, and explaining to you why it's important that you do this work, and what the benefits to you and your soul, your family, your friends, the people you work with, they're all going to benefit from you doing this work. I bless you. I'm committed. I am committed to help you. I will give you every inch of whatever I can to encourage you to go on this journey. Because to be free from the limited self is worth everything in the world. Jesus said, very simply, go to the Father first, and everything will be given to you. What's he talking about? Go to God. Go to God. So we are going to God, and everything will be given to you what you need. What you need for your journey will be given to you. So trust that. I personally can guarantee that's going to happen for you. If you are sincere, the masters are sincere in helping you. That's what I found out. But they made me work. They didn't let me skip school. And if I skipped school, I found out it was even harder the next week to catch up with what I needed to learn. You do not realize, as I did not realize, when I began this little taking charge of my mind piece, I didn't realize that there was a checklist, so to speak, on me. They had to take me and teach me this, and then they had to go here. This is the checklist, and they will support you. But there's a lot of things on this list here. And they know what they need to do with you in support to move as quickly as possible through these things. And if you miss a week or 2 weeks, then you're back to this one when everybody else in the class is maybe down here. The third dimensional mind is out of control. There we are. There it is. And you can quiet your mind and be in charge. So I support you in being in charge of your life and dancing with the stars. And I mean the stars are the cosmic stars in the heaven. And that you will do. Good night, and I will see you next week. Don't forget to do your homework.